Hello. Couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is going to be in listen only mode. You have the ability to type your questions during the session. We will have a question answer period at the end of this session. This session is going to be recorded and you can refer back in around a week where we're going to upload this recording and it's going to be available on our YouTube channel. We're going to wait for a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and then we're going to get started. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Team Canada's Tech Thursdays. My name is Wailan Waisri. I am a sales engineer at WatchGuard Canada, and today we're going to be talking about WatchGuard Cloud and some of the updates that related to WatchGuard Cloud. In our agenda today, we're going to talk about what's new in WatchGuard Cloud, such as account groups, user inheritance, how we can do operating system updates across different subscribers. This is a very good feature that it's being requested by service providers. Then we're going to take a look at the cloud visibility for the different versions or types of the firewall that we have. So we're going to take a look at how it's going to be in appliances, visibility for a cluster that's being added, Firebox V and Firebox Cloud. And at the end of the session, we're going to talk about the updates related to the Firebox management in WatchGuard Cloud. We will have a demo for adding the Firebox V to WatchGuard Cloud management from scratch. And also we will talk about the updates about SSL VPN and dynamic DNS features that been requested by a lot of partners in the last couple of months. All right, so let's get started and let's take a look here about what is new in WatchGuard Cloud. First feature that we have is how to manage account groups. And it is a feature that's available for service provider that they can use the account groups to control the account access in WatchGuard Cloud. So you have the ability to restrict the access for two roles that is related to the operators, the auditors and the help desk roles with account groups. These operators are limited to the accounts in their assigned account groups. So, for example, if the auditor and the help desk operators are restricted to some account groups instead of all, which is the default whenever that you create it and you choose the role for them. In this scenario, they will no longer have the access to their own subscriber account. The sale role can access all the accounts in the account groups, but cannot change the group members. I just wanted to point this out so that you will be aware of it. Owners' roles always have full access. And also, I wanted to have a quick review here about different operator roles whenever that you create them so that you will be aware. The owners have full permission within the service provider account and managed services, and they are only the service provider operators who can add, delete, edit the operators for their account. When it comes to the sales roles, the sales operators have full permission for inventory and account management, but read-only permission for the configuration of the services and the operators. Help desk operators have full permission to configure services and read-only permission everywhere else. So this is going to be very useful if you have in your company that you have different administrators. They just need to configure specific accounts. Auditor have read-only permission throughout their service provider account. And definitely we have no access. So the operator that have no access role cannot log into WatchGuard Cloud until they are assigned different role. So in case if for security reason that somebody is being assessed or that they are on a vacation and you don't want them to log in at all, then you can have the no access role. when it comes to the role mapping between the service provider role and the subscriber role. So the owner in the service provider is going to be called administrator when it comes to the subscriber level. Sales is going to be an observer. Help desk is going to be the analyst, and the auditor is going to be the observer. So most of the time we will see that the first person that's creating the WatchGuard account is going to be the owner, and then he invite the others depending on what they need them to do. So if they are sales, you're going to have an observer here, and the rest is going to be the help desk, which is the analyst that is on the subscriber level. The tier 1 account operators are the users on your account in the WatchGuard portal itself. So when you want to add these users, you cannot do them in WatchGuard Cloud. You're going to do them in the WatchGuard portal. So by default, when you add a user to your account in the WatchGuard portal, that user is given no access operator role for the WatchGuard Cloud portion, and I will show you that later on in the demo. If you have tier 1 account, you manage your operators in the support center. From WatchGuard Cloud, you can only see the operators in your account and change their role as needed under WatchGuard Cloud. All right, so we're going to take a look on the account groups. So here I just wanted to mention where you can find the information about the documentation. You can go to Help Center under WatchGuard Cloud for Service Provider. You will see under Account Management there is Manage Account Groups, which is going to take you through the steps in details. But let's take a look here where we're going to get started. Definitely once that you log into your account, you're going to go to Support, not the Partner Portal, and you're going to click on WatchGuard Cloud. So under WatchGuard Cloud, how we can see the account groups, you have to be here at the top, and you have to click on Administration, and then you have here Account Groups. By default, there will be nothing, but then you can add the account group as needed, and then you can add the subscribers into it. So mainly this is gonna be valuable for you whenever that you want to add the operators later on with the specific permissions, and also for the endpoint policies. So if I want to add a new one, I can just click here on Add Group. Let's say this one, I'm gonna call it Canada West Group. Okay, once it's added, some of the options that you can do. You can add a group inside the group. You can rename the group or delete the group. Deleting the group, if there is any other subscriber under it, then you cannot delete it. You have to move that one to the all accounts first. And in this scenario, if I want to add to it, I'm going to go to the same place under account groups in here. I have this group called EPDR test. So these two groups in here, they are actually part of the all accounts group. I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to drag it and drop it on Canada West. And now that I have it in there. As I just said, if you want to delete it, delete this Canada West, it's not going to allow you to do that right now. You have to take this one out and put it under all accounts again. And then when you come here, you can actually be able to delete it. So let me put this back in here. Right. So the next step, it's related to the role. So how can we do that? One of the things that's important to understand, as I said, that all these operators, it's going to be added from the WatchGuard portal itself under my WatchGuard Manage Users. So you have to come here and you're going to invite the user. They're going to receive an email so that they can set their own password. But let's say that I have here one that I have created earlier. All right, I can click on that. I'm going to edit the permission. And for this specific operator, I don't want them to have any access to the user management that is related to the WatchGuard portal itself. So no access. but I want them to be the help desk when it comes to WatchGuard Cloud. So how can I see this information in WatchGuard Cloud? I have to go here under inventory, under administration. When we have to go to WatchGuard Sales Canada, this is where the main account for the service provider level, then I can see all of them. And I can see the one that I have created in here, WatchGuard Canada, and they have the role as help desk. I can click on that. Right? And at this moment here, it will show me what's the account access that you want to provide for this operator. I want them just to be part of this Canada West. So I will uncheck the top and I will check this Canada West and I'm going to save. Also, I wanted to point out here the relation to the EPDR global policy when it comes to these group or the account groups. So how can we see that? We can go here under this level, the highest level, configure, and we're going to go to endpoints. And as you can see here, it's stating that it's a service provider endpoint manager, and also you will notice the structure of the accounts that it's being created in here. Okay, so the next feature, it's related to user inheritance for service provider. And this one actually, it's more related to AuthPoint more than it's just WatchGuard Cloud. So the user inheritance is going to enable you as a service provider to request the managed accounts to inherit an AuthPoint user from the service provider account. So this is one of the requests that we had before, that on service provider account, we have specific admin that you want him also to be part of the subscriber account. So if the managed account approves the request, then the specified service provider users are added to the managed account and can authenticate to the resources for that account. So when you think about it, it's like, for example, if you are managing the infrastructure for the subscriber, it has AuthPoint, it has also the login app is going to be already installed, and you need somebody from your side as an administrator to provide the support for them logging into a specific server that's going to use the MFA. So this is definitely the solution for that. This make it easier for you as a service provider to help manage the accounts for the customers. And you might do this if you manage the AuthPoint services for the customers, or if you need access to troubleshoot the protected resources for the account you manage. Some notes in here to take into account: that you cannot send user inheritance requests to delegated accounts, right? So delegated accounts, usually it's something that's done under the administration for you as a service provider. Inherited users do not use the AuthPoint user license in the managed account. So this is another thing to answer the question is, do I need extra license now for this administrator to do their job on supporting the protected environments or the protected infrastructure? The answer is no. You don't need an extra license. You can request that the managed accounts inherit these types of user accounts. So local AuthPoint users, LDAP and Active Directory users, or the Azure Active Directory users. These managed accounts do not have to configure an external identity or a gateway to inherit the user synced from the external database. Inherited users that sync from an external user database can only authenticate to Radius or the firewall resources if the gateway or the firewall can connect to the LDAP database of the service provider. There is a list of other requirements that's related to this that is available under the documentation portion under the Help Center. So let's take a look on how we can do this and how we can actually do the process from the service provider level to the accounts themselves. Okay, we are back here into the dashboard of WatchGuard Cloud to see the user inheritance. We're going to go to the WatchGuard Sales Canada My Account, which is the service provider level. And this is where I'm going to go to configure and configure off point. Under off point, you will see the user inheritance. And when you click on that, you will see here the list of the users and their names and the account that's been inherited in, and it's been accepted or rejected from the operator on the sub level, which is on the subscriber level. So now if I want to add another one, which is I wanted to go to another level, which is subscriber 1, I can go to choose the name of the admin. I want it to be inherited under the APDR test. I'm going to send the request. You notice here that it shows that it's pending. I have the ability to delete that request in case if I wanted to do that. If I want to approve it, I have to go to the subscriber level. And in there, I have the request that it is for the username M370 admin, the name, and also the email address. And I have the ability here to approve, reject, or just delete. So I'm going to approve it. It will tell you select the group that you want them to be part of, right? Within off point. This is the off point group that I want them to be part of. So I'm going to be adding them to sales in here, and I'm going to save, and you will see now all the information that's related to that user. If I go to the higher level, you will see that information here that it's been accepted. Okay, so our next topic is going to be related to cloud visibility. We have the cloud visibility available now for some time, and we added the Firebox management, and we added feature to that. I'm going to show you here what is available. We provide the cloud visibility now to all different types of firewalls that from WatchGuard. So it can be applied to the appliances, to the Firebox V, and the Firebox Cloud. So let's go into the dashboard and take a look at this. Okay, we are back here into WatchGuard Cloud. And if I want to see the firewalls, definitely depending on the one that's been assigned to me as service provider or the one that's assigned to the subscriber, I have to choose which one that I want to see first. For example, here, let's take a look at the M690. You have definitely here the ability dependent of the basic security or total security. Basic security that you can have 1 day worth of information that's available for you in WatchGuard Cloud. For total security is going to be 30 days data retention that is available for you. You will see here at the top of the device summary the information related to the firewall itself, the name, the model, the version, the serial number, the IP address, and how long it's been up, and all other information that's related to the device statistics as well. And here it depends on what's being also configured, if you can see some of the information or not. You can take a look here at the today, yesterday, last 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days, or this month. Let's say that I want to see the last 7 days. Then you can see the information that's related to the botnet detection, web blocker, IPS, malware, the authenticated user if they're using firewall or the mobile VPN users. Also, you can see just a quick overview here of the most active policies. The next one here is the live status, so that you can go to Traffic Monitor and see that information. You also have the ability to see the live logs, so that traffic, you can see the top clients and their IP addresses, where are they going, the top application, top policies, the ports and the countries that they are going to. And definitely this is information that's clickable, so that I can go here and find more about the SSL connection, who's using that and where are they going. And also the policies that it's being used to allow that traffic. For example, here, this is avoid traffic. If I go back here under live logs, so you can see this if you have used Dimension before or used the Firebox management using WSM, you would be familiar with this, where we have the FSM information, which is going to show you the live information related to the traffic, alarm, events, what's been allowed, denied, so you can do your troubleshooting as needed. We also add here the authentication information that is related to the users, the networks, so you can have a quick look at the interfaces, the names, if they are, the interface that's been assigned to them, and also the DNS server information. So this is also is important in case if you need this information for troubleshooting. Also, we added the ARP. Usually this information before that we have to get it, like the routes and the ARP and the DHCP lease, which is I will show you in a minute, that it used to be part of the status report, but now that it's available for you in here. So you can see the ARP, you can see the DHCP as well. The interfaces, what's the IP address that's been assigned, the host name itself, the MAC address, and also when that happened. You have IPv4, IPv6. This is something else that's been added in here, that you have also IPv6 is being supported as well. Also, you can see the routes that it's available for me in this scenario. You also can see the information related to the geolocation. You can choose by all countries, or you can see the source countries, so you see the information coming from where, or the traffic flow, and also the destination where most of the connection is going to. You have the information about the VPN. So we have the branch office VPN, IKE v2 VPN, and the SSL VPN. I'm going to revisit this topic later on once it comes to the management, because once we started Firebox management in the cloud, we only had the branch office VPN and the IKE v2, but we also added the SSL VPN now. And you can see here if there is any of these VPN is being active or inactive or disabled, and you can click on it and find out more information about what happened, why it's not active. So for example, for this one, no response for IKE SA for the initialization request message. And you can rekey the tunnel from here, and also you can click on debug, which is going to give you a little bit more details of what happened. Maybe there's SA for phase 1 that is being sent, but there is no response from the other side, or there is a mismatch. Going to take a few seconds here, and it's going to load that information. As you can see here, it will give you the conclusion, and able to find establish phase 1 security association, the gateway summary, and the tunnel summary, and some other related information, like the IP addresses for the endpoints. Also, the logs, so that here you have the log manager. We can see the information in more details. This is for the last 7 days, as you can see at the top in here. You can see the traffic logs, the alarms, the events. You can filter them accordingly. You can see 25, it's by default. You can see more if you needed to. And also you have the log search, where you can type here what you're looking for. And we added here the arguments. So if you're looking for a specific source, for example, you say source IP address is, this is one of my internal machines that it's in there. And you can see here the traffic logs that it's related to it. Under the dashboard, this is the classic dashboard that we had before that was available also in Dimension. That you can see here also the top clients, countries, domains, and so on. And every one of these is going to be clickable. You have the security dashboard related to the security services, like for example, who's being blocked because of the botnets, or the top blocked protocols. Also, you can see the subscription dashboard for the services that it's being turned on. Some of them that if I didn't configure them or use them, you might not see much more information that is related to it. But also you can zoom in here of a specific period of time. The threat map that's related to the last 7 days. For example, here, if I want to see related to the states, I can see the protocol, the city, the IP address, and the number of hits. Firewatch, Again, it's something that if you are familiar with Dimension, it used to be there. We usually use this, from time to time to go back in here and see the sources, the application, the top application that is being used. For example, here TLS SSL, yeah, it makes sense. You can see that YouTube, Amazon, Facebook, and so on, and see if there's something out of the ordinary in our environment. We also have the policy map where we can see the interface in, the policies in here, and if it is being allowed or denied, and using which interface to go out. If you have multiple WAN connection, Bell, Rogers, maybe it is within the trusted network itself, and also it will share the information if you have different VLANs, and definitely these are clickables. Web information, so you can see the most active client, the trending. Also under traffic, you can see the packet filters, if you want to see who are the top clients. So it's a different view of the information that it's been available. This one is related to the services, the application usage. This is one of the places you might go back from time to time to see if, for example, what's the amount of YouTube that it's being used? Should I put a policy? Should I put some kind of traffic shaping policy to enhance my services? IPS, there's nothing here for the last 7 days. Botnet detection, usually you will have something in there that is related to the frequency depending on your network. Also, you can see related to the device itself, like for example, the authentication. One of them that we added is DHCP lease activity that you can see in there. So you can see the IP address. For example, this is going to my voice over IP phone, right? When it's being used, the last used, and the MAC address. You can download this in CSV format, by the way. You will always notice here that at the top that you will have either CSV format or PDF format. Also, something else that we added here is related to the policy usage. This is very useful, especially in case that you have a firewall that it's not managed in the cloud yet. And as you know, that managing the firewall in the cloud requires that it's being reset to factory default, and maybe that's the time to take a look at what are the policies available, if there's any kind of shadow policies that is not required anymore, or maybe inherited for a long time. So this one, it will give you the availability here of the information, especially if you just start with monitoring at the beginning of what are the policies that it's being used for the last 7 days, or maybe this month. And that it will give you an indication. If I go here at the bottom, there are some of them that is being not used for the last month. So if I am suspecting, for example, that this one is not useful, or is being that you have more specific policy that it's at the top, that it's always being used, then maybe you can disable it, and then you can revisit the topic again in a month or so and find out if you need to disable or delete that specific policy. Under details in here, you can see the blocked application, denied packets, web audit information, some of them here, like for example, the categories, the clients, the policy that has allowed that specific communication to happen. We have information related to compliance as well as health, like interface summary. Okay, so you can see here, if I want to see, depending on the interface, the external, I have two external here, Bell and Rogers. If I have a cluster, if I want to see the information that's related to each one of them. Like for example here, for Rogers, they didn't use it for a long time, it disconnected, this is why there's nothing. Also you have the information that's related to the SD-WAN. And it will show you here the external and both of them, Bell and Rogers. You can see the information related to loss for per minute and the average and the maximum, the percentage, as well as latency and jitter, which is, if you've done the configuration for SD-WAN, you will know the importance of this information. Also, the status related to loss latency, depending on the interface itself. So definitely this is going to be useful. The last thing that I want to point out here is related to the per client report, where you can use the username or the host itself. So we're taking this one as an example, where it can show you here the web activity trend for that user, most popular destinations and domains, the application usage, and so on. So again, this, it's gonna depend on what are the services that you're using. So if you're not using application control, or you didn't set the application control to identify what are the application in your environment, maybe you will not find any information that is being populated in this one. So as I mentioned earlier, that this is available for the appliances, available for the Firebox V as well when it comes to the monitoring information, as you can see here, as well as if you have firewall that it's in the cloud, for example, this one, that it's a firewall cloud that it is being configured under Azure, or it can be under AWS. Right, the last thing that I wanted to point out here related to the features as well, that it's related to the firewall operating system updates, right? We know from before that if you go to a specific account, you can go under configure, devices, and there's the firmware upgrade in there. So this view is actually the view for that specific subscriber, right? And as you can see now, also we have the support for clusters. You can add a cluster in here, you can monitor the cluster, and also we can manage the cluster. So in this scenario, that's if you want to do per subscriber. But the one that is being recently added, that you can actually access that from two places. You can go here on the top under overview, and you see the device firmware. So this is a global one for all the subscribers under the service provider. And you have the ability now that you can see all of them, that whatever that it is being available, and they actually belong to which account name, right? So you have the name of the device in here, the type of it. It's, for example, firewall. I just want to see the fireboxes. Then I can click here and see the fireboxes. And I want to see the one that it's ready to upgrade. So I see all of them in here. Now, when I do upgrade firmware, I have the ability actually to do kind of mass deployment for these devices. And also you notice now it's something that is not related to the firewalls, but even for the access points is under WatchGuard Cloud, so that once that you are familiar with the firewall, how to do the monitoring, configuration, also that when it comes to the licensing and the other management features, it's going to be very similar, including for the access points under WatchGuard Cloud. Okay, once we took a look now at the visibility portion, we're going to take a look at the Firebox management in WatchGuard Cloud. So let's go to the dashboard, and we're going to see from the beginning how we can add the firewall. As I said, now it is supported that you can manage the appliances, the Firebox V or the Firebox Cloud in WatchGuard Cloud. But we're going to have our demo that it is based on a Firebox V. Okay, before we go to the dashboard, always I recommend that to go into the WatchGuard Cloud help site so that you can see the more accurate information that's related to the version of the operating system. Maybe in a couple of weeks or maybe months, we will have different information related to each of these components. So here I am under WatchGuard Cloud Help, and if you go under Fireboxes, you will see all the steps that it's needed. So for example, if you just wanted to monitor the firewall in the cloud, or you want to manage the Firebox in the cloud, how we can add it, the information related to the templates and so on. So if I go here to the adding a device to WatchGuard Cloud, it will show you here the first one is related to the Firebox cloud and in the WatchGuard Cloud. And in this scenario, that you have two options, that you can have cloud managed or cloud reporting with local management. This is not our topic for today. We already had some of the previous session related to this. The cloud managed firewalls, and you can see here there's different links depending on the type of the firewall, if it is an appliance, Firebox V, or the one that it's related to Firebox Cloud itself. So here, if you click at the first one, you will also see the information that's related to the requirement. For example, that you already activated the firewall, that you have total security or basic security, suite subscription. We don't support the standalone yet for the management. We're going to add it later on. The Firebox is allocated to the subscriber account of your service provider, and also that the firewall is connected to the network and has a reliable internet access, and you're aware of the how to access it, and also you have the password for the accessing the firewall. Definitely here also it will show you that it has to run 12.5.7 or higher to do that on the physical appliances, and we need to set it to factory default. You will also notice that if I click here on Firebox V, which is we're going to do the demo for today, that it has to run 12.7.1 or higher. Okay, so you have to keep that into account and always check the help documentation before that you start doing this process. Okay, so the Firebox V that I have today is implemented, or it's been installed or deployed into a private cloud, and it's been running. It's already given an IP address, and the first thing definitely is to allocate this specific firewall to the subscriber. So here I am at the higher level under inventory to see unallocated firewalls, find the Firebox V allocated to one of the subscriber accounts, and then we go from there. So the one that I need is this one, Firebox V1. Make sure that the serial number matches, and then I want to assign it to wild beta. I don't want to have any expiration date on it for now, right? Allocation is being already done. If I go back here and I go under the subscriber level, Firebox allocation and inventory, then I can see that it is already being assigned to this subscriber level, and I can add it into the management. So the next step here is to go under configure, devices, and at this moment we still didn't, even if it's been assigned as a licensed firewall to the subscriber account, but we didn't add it, right? So you have the option of doing it just as monitoring, or you want to do it as monitoring and managed in the cloud itself. So I'm going to click here on the Firebox add device. You can see that it shows up in here. You just need to click on it. If you don't see it here, it means one of two things: that you didn't register at all from the beginning, or you didn't allocate it correctly to the subscriber level. Right. Also, you have the option here to add the fire cluster. If you need to do the fire cluster, it will ask you for member 1 first and then member 2 second, and definitely they have to be in the list here to be able to add them. So if you have a cluster, please add them from this side of the screen, not in here. But this one, it's not a cluster, it's just a Firebox V to tell you, okay, you have selected this device, you want to add it, yes. The next step is, do you want to do this as cloud managed or cloud reporting with local management? I want to do it as cloud managed firewall. And one of the things that just want to point out that it depends if this firewall that has been used before or not. We need to be reset to factory default, or that you already received it, so it is already have the factory default on it. After the the assignment, the registration, always do the assignment, the registration before that you start doing the rest of the configuration on the firewall itself, the initial configuration. So here we're gonna give it a name, the time zone that I want. So here we're gonna go with Eastern time. Next, is it using a DHCP for the internet connection or not? So this information, you have to get it by yourself from the network administrator. In this scenario, I have a static IP address that it's been assigned to this device. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this information. Right, and then we're gonna set what is the gateway. And the public DNS server. These are crucial information that it's going to be required at the beginning. All right, click next. You're going to set here the status and the admin password, right? And it will tell you that it has to be between 8 and 32 characters. Okay, status and the admin password has been set. Now download the payload to the virtual firewall. So this is one of the steps that it is whenever that you're dealing with the Firebox V. In my environment, because this one, it is not being deployed in my own data center, it is a private cloud. So the firewall is already being set up when it comes to the IP address. So I cannot do these steps in here. But in the normal scenario, if you go under add cloud managed, and if it is Firebox V, then you will notice here at the bottom of the screen, after you do the payload and you download this payload, let's do it anyway. Download the payload file. This one have the information about it, that it contains the information about the IP address and also the admin access. It's going to be encrypted using the admin password that you already set. And usually whenever that you go to the firewall later on and you just access it normally, that to do the initial configuration, it will ask you one of the steps. Do you want to do this one as a cloud managed? You say yes, and you will upload this file. So if I go here at the bottom of the screen, you have the information and documentation about how you upload this payload file once that you connect to the Firebox. And you're going to use here the admin password, and it's going to upload it. Okay, I'm going to click done. And maybe this is also another way I will show you how to, add it in this scenario. I have it here as Firebox V, but it will show me that it's never connected. And the reason for this, it's because I need to go and be able to connect to the firewall itself and make sure that it has WatchGuard Cloud enabled on that firewall. Okay, here I have my Firebox V that I connected to locally, and as you can see here that the WatchGuard Cloud on it, it's being disabled. So one of the steps that I have to do in here, that I have to go under System, and I need to find WatchGuard Cloud. You notice that WatchGuard Cloud here, it's not registered. I need to enable WatchGuard Cloud, and when I do that, it will ask you for verification code, right? If we already done that by uploading the payload file in the normal scenarios, you wouldn't need to do this. But let's say that for any reason that you needed to use the verification code, so we're going to go back here to WatchGuard Cloud, to the Firebox V itself in here, and I'm going to click on regenerate the code. Yes, I need to regenerate. I'm going to copy the code. I'll go back to the Fireware web UI, and I'm going to paste this. I'll save. At this moment, it will tell you, oh, the DNS, it's not being configured on this device. So this is something that it's as a requirement. I have to do that. I'm going to go back to network interfaces, and under DNS, I'm going to add the DNS server that I want to communicate with. I'm going to add that and save. Go back to system, WatchGuard Cloud. I want to enable that. Paste my code. I'll save. Pending registration. And registered green. Everything is okay here. That's the moment if I go back here to Firebox V. I'm going to just refresh. You can see now it is green. It is connected. You can see the information that's related to the firewall, and it will show me that it is now the logging and the cloud management. It's being added. Just for your information, if at any time they said, okay, I don't want to manage it with the cloud anymore, then you can remove it from cloud management and still keep the device logging to the cloud. And then if you want, you can just keep that configuration on the locally managed firewall. You can reset it and load other configuration depending on the situation. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and I will log out from this one. And if I try here to go to, I have now a new options that's related to the configuration itself. If I go under monitoring devices, I see that the monitoring, it started already. It will take a few minutes, to upload any information. Anyway, we didn't do any configuration on it yet. But if I want to do the configuration, I can go here under configure devices, and I will do the device configuration. Going back here to WatchGuard Cloud, what do we have now? We have the device settings, the device configuration, the deployment history. So it's going to show you the version of the configuration that is being set, the initial configuration, if it's succeeded or failed, and when that's being applied by which operator. You can click on that, and actually this is, if I click here on view configuration report, this is at any time if you are in doubt of what are the initial configuration that is being pushed to the device at the beginning as default configuration, you can refer to this. So you can see the security services, what's being blocked by default, what's being allowed, all the policies that it's being set by default. Also, you have the ability from here to change the device password, so the status password or the admin password as needed. Now, going back here to the device configuration, you will notice that there's some differences, and this is the answer to the question that a lot of partners and clients asking about why we cannot transfer the configuration directly from the locally managed to the cloud, and we have to reset to factory default, because the steps and the default configuration are different. When we try to simplify things, make them grouped in a way that it's easier for you just by looking at this dashboard of understanding what are the services that's running on this Firebox. So in here at the top, you can see that the security services, you can see the content scanning, network blocking, all the exceptions, geolocation, content filtering, and TLS decryption. That's under the security services. And then we have the firewall itself. When it comes to the firewall policies, you'll notice now we have 3 levels that's available: the first run, the core, and the last run. And we did this way so that we're taking into account that this can be by service provider, that maybe you have the first run that it's going to be inherited by template for all of your subscribers, and then you have more specific one in the core, or the last run that it is related to specific subscriber. You have the aliases. You can add static net from here, the VPN, the networking portion. So you can see that we have the external, internal, guest network, the DNS, the routes, and the dynamic net. Also the portion that's related to the authentication. And we have here the device settings when it comes to the time zone that belongs to, logging server, if you want to log the dimension is disabled here by default, but also you can send it to syslog or to a SIM if you have that. At the bottom we have the Firebox templates that's been inherited from the higher level, in case if we wanted to set that on the subscriber level or to on the service provider level. So let's take a look here beginning on the firewall policies. Under firewall policy, I said that we have 3 levels that it's available in here. By default, the system policies are hidden, but you can see them here from the top. Show system policies, like for example the IKE that is being allowed from anywhere using IKE, ESP, and AH destination to the Firebox itself. And one of them that I mentioned earlier, that WatchGuard Web UI, right? Even though there is nothing much that we can do when it comes to accessing through the Web UI now, it's just troubleshooting the connectivity to WatchGuard Cloud, which is I'm going to show you later on at the end. We can add another one if we want. And here, by default, you have 2 policies, the guest. So we have any guest that they can use the web, FTP, all TCP, and UDP, and ping from any guest to any external that it's been available. And you can see here, just if I hover over it, I can see that the content filtering is enabled, geolocation is enabled, as well as the content scanning. I can delete that if I want to. And also you have an outgoing, which is from any internal using these protocols to any external that it is being enabled, right? And there's some others here that's related to unhandle internal packet from any internal to any destination. So if I want to add a firewall policy, I'm just going to click on it. It's going to be a wizard now that it's related to the direction first, right? So outbound, inbound, custom, you want it first run or last run. For example, here I want to add a policy that to allow the web access for the management from anywhere or from a specific IP address. So this is going to be an inbound one. And here I'll put it as inbound or first run. But I'm going to put as inbound here. And then I'm going to go to add it as with the name. So this web UI management any. Then we have the settings. We have under the action to allow or deny. We can add the traffic type. So you have the search now. Definitely you can go one by one. You can check what are the services that you want to allow. So if you notice, there's a difference here from how we used to do it in WSM before, or the web UI before, that if you have going from X to Y, even the direction is the same, but if you have different protocols, you will require one policy per protocol. But here you will need one policy per direction, depending on the source and destination. And then you can have multiple protocols in there. So in here, if I want to see the web management, you see here, I just put web and it showed me that WatchGuard Fireware Web UI. This is the one that I need. I'm going to add it in there. Allow. And then you can add the source. You have the usual, so the host that can be IPv4, a specific host or a network or fully qualified domain name. You can have my aliases, which is you create by yourself and use it in here, or you can use the built-in aliases. I want it from any For this scenario, it's not recommended for sure. You have to put a specific IP address in case if you want to do that, or it's much better if you have SSL VPN definitely to log in, and then you can access it internally. Okay, add the destination. In this scenario, I want it to be the firewall itself. Okay, I don't want any geolocation or content scanning on that. I'm going to save it. Once that I do this, it will show you that you have undeployed saved changes in here. I can click on schedule deployment. You can deploy it now or schedule to another time or date. I'm going to put a description that it is web UI management that I added in here from any. And I'm going to deploy. Right, so now I have that. It's been already added. So if I go back here, I have 3 core policies now. Right, that one of them is related to the web management. All right, so this is when it comes to the firewall rules itself. You have the aliases in here that you can add your own alias as needed. You give it a name, a description. You can have it as a part of a specific member of a specific group. All right, and you have also the ability to do the static net. Another important one definitely is related to the network, so that you can see here the networks. There is the external, internal that is being added at the beginning. By default, you can see the internal is assigned 10.0.1.1, and the external, the IP address that I set earlier. You can click on this, as you can see here, also at the bottom, that the interfaces, right? Only I'm using these 2, right? The rest, for now, that they are not used. So if I want to view the associated interfaces, I can see here the external, that's been static, the gateway, right? And it's related to the Ethernet 0. I can come here and disable it and say there's no traffic if I wanted to do that. I can enable VLANs from here on that external network if I wanted to. Right. The internal network, you'll see here that view the networks that it's related to it. It's the network is 10.0.1.1/24, which is, I think everyone is familiar with. Next to it here, I can do no traffic if I wanted to. So I can come here, bridged. I can bridge all these networks to 10.0.1.1 network. I'm going to save it. Right, so you can see now that these are enabled. And sometimes the behavior it depends on if it's physical interface or a physical firewall or not. Okay, so if I wanted to add other networks, I can click here on add networks. Let's say I want to add a new network that's internal. I'm going to give it a name. It's for the HR network 172.16.4.1/24. It's IP address. I can enable VLANs in here if I wanted to. And then we can see the interface that it shows here, interface 6. If I don't want that, I can actually add it to another one, add network traffic. And you notice if it's only one interface, it will show that it's HR standalone. If let's say I want both interfaces 6 to 7, that's going to be part of it. I'm going to bridge network traffic, and we're going to have now HR bridged. All right. Other things that you can see at the top that we now support IPv6, you can enable that. You can put, the information that's related to it. And also you have the DHCP settings here if you want to enable it. If a DHCP server, DHCP relay, you can have the address pool, the reserved IP addresses, and also the options. And we have here link monitoring. That's definitely part of the SD-WAN. And under advanced, allow the connections to fireware web UI on this specific network, as well as ping, for this specific interface. And we have also secondary networks if you want to add secondary networks to this interface. All right. So other than that, definitely here you have the DNS that you can add your DNS, this public IP address that, or DNS server IP address that we added at the beginning when we did the configuration. You can add more if you want. There's internal DNS. There's the DNS watch if you want to enable that, and you have total security. Here we have the route if you want to add the static route. Right, depending on the IP address, the gateway, and the metric that you want to do. Can go with the static net if you want to do that. And if you notice now, mostly everything almost like a wizard. So you can add the static net action. You can add the rule in here from external. What's the internal IP address, the destination port, and the source IP address in case if you wanted to use that. Right, and going back to this, when it comes to the security services, for example, if I want to see here the content scanning, you notice that the gateway antivirus, intelligent AV, and APT blocker is enabled by default. Spam blocker is not. Anything that it has this drop down here so that you can see that there is some more configuration that you can do. This is the default, but if you want to change it, you can do that as well. Under advanced, it's just related to the file scan size that you can set. Under network blocking, so we have the botnet detection, IPS, blocked sites, and the blocked ports. And this, if you want to see the list of it, definitely we can see them. And as well as if you can, you want to add the blocked site in there. When it comes to the IPS, this is the usual configuration that we use too, going with full scan or fast scan, what's going to happen if it is critical, high, medium, or low. You have the list of the exceptions, geolocations. So you can add here the action and you say, I want to block a specific, continent or a specific country in a continent. And then, you can add that specific action with a specific name in here and use it in the policy. Going back here to the device configuration, we were doing the configuration related to the VPN. It's just, I want to show you that couple of steps that it is required in there. So branch office VPN, add the VPN, you give it a name. Right, and it will give you the endpoints. So you have a Firebox V, you have the T17 there. When you click next, so it's gonna take you into the next step, which is expected of saying, okay, which interface that you want to be using. In here, I'm using the external interface with the public IP address. One of the things in here related to the external interface. So I have a T72 of them, external interface 1 and 2. One is using Bell and the other are using Rogers. I need to get the IP address of that. So I can go back here and just copy the IP address that I want to use. I'm gonna click on next. Here, because this one is checked, but it doesn't have an IP address, I only want with one, so I will just uncheck the other one. Then it's going to tell you, okay, on this Firebox V, we have only one network, the internal network here. And on the other side, we have internal Wi-Fi, well network. So which one that you want to use? I'm going to say with the internal to internal, and I'm going to save it. So definitely it's going to simplify for you if you have both of them under WatchGuard Cloud Management. Okay, that's all for this session. I hope that it was useful. At least we took a quick look at a different option that's available for you when it comes to managing the firewall via WatchGuard Cloud. Please take a look at this link for feedback. We always love to hear from you. And definitely we will be having another session next month. Please go to our YouTube channel to see the recording that's being uploaded usually within 1 week after the session is being live. I'm going to wait here for a couple of minutes just to see if you have any questions that we can answer it. Otherwise, thank you so much.